Morning, everyone. Welcome. Thanks for joining us on such a lovely day. We're just gonna wait a few minutes, make sure everyone can get in the room. Welcome to folks joining. Just gonna let people take their time to get into the room and we'll come to order here shortly. Welcome all. We're just gonna wait just 2 more minutes before we begin. Make sure everyone has time to get into the room. Really appreciate everyone coming out on a beautiful Saturday morning. All right, Lynn, things have seemed to slow in terms of folks coming into the room, so I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Alec. Welcome, everyone, to the 61st Annual General Meeting. I call to order. I want to begin with a land acknowledgement. Land acknowledgements are critical to understanding the truths of our past and certainly our current reality. The Nova Scotia College of Social Workers is in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq, whose inherent rights were recognized in the peace and friendship treaties that were signed from 1725 to 1779. This series of treaties did not surrender Indigenous land, resources, or sovereignty to the British Empire, but instead established rules for an ongoing relationship between nations. And the treaties were later reaffirmed by Canada in Section 35 of the Constitution Act 1982 and remain active to this day. The college joins our members and our communities in the labor of reconciliation. We are grateful to live and work together as treaty people in Mi'kma'ki. As we open our meetings with a land acknowledgement, it is also so important for us to engage in reflection and repair, as decolonizing ourselves and our practice includes learning to recognize the ways in which we are each affected by the various systems within which we live and work. Each of us, depending on our social location and intersection positionality, may be simultaneously privileged and oppressed. For example, all of us with non-Indigenous origins continue to benefit from being able to live on unceded Mi'kmaq land, but this privilege is tempered by the fact that many Black Nova Scotians have ancestors who were uprooted from their homelands in Africa and brought to Mi'kma'ki against their will. And every generation since their arrival has also seen waves of newcomers seeking refuge after being displaced by imperialist violence and its consequent disasters. Our origins intersect with other elements of our identities to create the social context of our lived experience. Race, gender, interact with class, age, disability, ethnicity, and more. So developing deep and nuanced understandings of how our position affects the work we do, as well as confronting the larger systemic forces at play, is certainly essential to ensuring safer practice. Before we get into the meat of the agenda, as we are all on Zoom for this meeting, I just want to go through a few housekeeping items. So please be patient with us. We're going to do our absolute best to ensure that it meets your needs as members and reflective of our time, respectful of our time together. So some housekeeping items for you. There will be a series of presentations made by the leadership of the college. Please ensure at this time you place yourself on mute. Once the presenter is done, I will call for a motion to accept the report. Anyone can make this motion by using the chat function. Once the motion has been seconded, then any member can ask a question or make a comment. When asking a question or making a comment, please make sure your microphone is not muted. And once you are done asking your question or making a comment, please mute your microphone again. Now, with respect to voting, once all questions and comments have been asked, I will call for a vote. And to make Alex's life easier in these very colonialistic rules, I will only be calling for votes opposed to the motion for ease of counting. Thus, if you are not in favor of the motion, please just write no in the chat function. All right, here we go. So if you could pop up the agenda, Alec. Give folks a couple of minutes. I will now call for a motion to approve the agenda. We have a motion to approve the agenda.
So Angela has made the motion
Excellent. Could I have a second?
and Jim has seconded.
Thank you. Any questions? All right, declared carried. I will now call for a motion to approve the minutes of last year's AGM dated May 2023. Give us a moment to pop those up for you and you can review them. I would like to call for a motion to approve the minutes of last year's AGM.
I see Michelle is making the motion to approve
Could I have a second?
and Jackie has seconded.
Any questions? Motion declared carried. I will now call upon myself as the president to deliver my report for this year. So it is with immense pride that I deliver my final report as the president of the college. Reflecting on the past 4 years, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve this very excellent, amazing, vibrant community. I wish to extend my deepest gratitude to our staff, to council, committee members, and all members of the college for their dedication and exceptional service to the most vulnerable in our province and to the college itself. Under the stewardship of the governance team, we have made remarkable strides toward realizing the objectives outlined in our strategic plan. We've met many of our goals and ambitions, such as fostering trust amongst members and the public, committing to truth and reconciliation, and championing measures against anti-Black racism. And we've seen significant forward movement. Yes, we acknowledge that there is much more work to do, including shaping the professional identity of social workers, which is an ongoing challenge, of which we've committed to again in our next strategic plan. I'm especially proud of success in the several core areas. The first being enhanced regulatory outcomes. You know, in the past 4 years, there hasn't been a regulatory program policy process that we have not touched, that we have not reviewed and substantially updated. Our efforts to improve regulatory functions have borne fruit, with regulatory actions reflecting our commitment to high standards. 68% of surveyed members have acknowledged our progress toward strategic objectives. And innovations like our new database system have streamlined registration and the renewal process. Also, we have totally had an overhaul of our web system. Also, strong advocacy and public engagement. Our advocacy has been impactful, particularly highlighted by the establishment of the social policy framework and advancements in child welfare. The consistent presence of our executive director registrar in public forums underscores our dedication to embodying our profession's essential values. And our collaborative endeavors have led to significant achievements, such as the creation of the Office for the Children and Youth, development of a practice framework for child welfare, implementation of the Family Stability Support Program, and assurances for a mental health and addiction strategy that prioritizes social determinants of health. And our relationships with entities such as Mi'kmaq Rights, Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, Canadian Mental Health Association, the Nova Scotia Action for Coalition for Community Wellbeing, Dal University, to name a few, have been instrumental in propelling policy and advocacy efforts forward. I also want to highlight our professional development initiatives. The overwhelming positive feedback we have received from our members regarding our professional development initiatives have been a source of great pride and encouragement. These initiatives, which highlight our dedication to principles of justice and equity, have successfully seen many of our members integrate their learnings into practice, appreciating both their relevance and quality. 2023 was particularly notable as our events drew an impressive attendance of 2,800 individuals, showcasing the profound interest and engagement in what we have to offer. Additionally, our initiatives and events have garnered international attention, attracting participants from South Africa, the UK, and across North America, underscoring the global relevance of our work. Following the establishment and subsequent reorganization of our YouTube channel in 2021 to better reflect our strategic priorities, we have witnessed a significant uptick in engagement. For instance, views increased by 83% to 14.1 thousand, and watch time by 70% to 2.7 thousand hours in 2023. These achievements are a testament to our continuous commitment to elevating the profession of social work, fostering a strong collective voice among our members, and promoting professional development that resonates with and benefits from our members and the broader community we aim to serve. Another area I wish to highlight is the Candidacy Mentorship Program. The CMP have proven to be an invaluable asset for social workers transitioning from academic settings into professional practice. It has enhanced professional identities, encouraged ethical practices, and supported the development of strategies to manage moral distress. Reviews of the program have shown participation in the program correlates with a lower incidence of complaints, showcasing its efficacy in safeguarding public safety and enhancing accountability. This program, again, is an area that we are continuing to focus on in the next strategic plan in terms of strengthening the program and also really focusing on mentors and how we support our important mentors in terms of the program. So looking forward, as we transition to our next strategic plan, I truly am filled with optimism for the future of our profession and the communities we serve. I'm honored to continue contributing to the college's vision and mission as your past president, confident in the knowledge that our collective efforts will continue to foster a safer, more inclusive, and equitable society. In closing, I want to reiterate my heartfelt thanks to everyone who has been part of this journey. Your hard work, passion, and unwavering commitment has been instrumental to our accomplishments. Together, we have set a strong foundation for the future, a future where the college continues to lead with integrity, compassion, and unrelenting dedication to those we serve. I truly believe that social work is an honorable profession. It is a profession that requires passion, humility, courage, and yes, guts, perseverance, and self-care. And it is filled with so much joy and rewards. I hope each and every one of you are aware and feel a sense of pride of the impact and contribution that you make to those you serve in the communities that you work in. Thank you so much for the opportunity for serving as your president. All right. Can I call for a motion to approve, to accept the president's report?
Angela has made that motion.
Second,
And Tanya has seconded.
any questions?
So I know later in the agenda, we're going to celebrate those leaving council and those coming on it. I have some comments about Lynn and what she represents to the college to deliver then. But do want to mark this time as that recognizing that that was Lynn's last statement as president. And as I mentioned, I'll talk a little bit more about Lynn's contribution later on in the meeting. But just, I'm so honored to have had you serve and to lead. And I'm really looking forward to your continuation on the board. But absolutely will make some more comments a little later on.
Thank you. It really has been my honor. All right, unless there's any no votes, motion declared carried. All right, I will now call on you, Alec, to present the Executive Director report.
Thanks, Lynn. As always, I'm incredibly privileged to be in this role. It's hard to believe that I've been here for 8 years now. And still find the challenge and the rewards and the community that this position holds to be overwhelmingly positive, productive, and it's a real joy and privilege to serve you and the folks of Nova Scotia. It's with immense gratitude and privilege that excuse that I'm here today. To talk about the advancements and the goals, particularly operationally, of the college over the last year. Our shared mission not only involves advocating for social change and policy that represents the values of the profession, it also is meant to ensure that the social work profession flourishes while enhancing the well-being of the most vulnerable in our society. And times are tough. That's not lost on anyone. At this moment. Again, we continue to see a rise in inequality, which is marked by a rise in unprecedented hate towards the most vulnerable, and tackled with, again, systems and structures that continually seem to privilege a few. But amidst that hardship, there's also immense joy. There's also immense gratitude and communities that are flourishing in order with deeper connections and deeper understanding of each other. Certainly, our conference yesterday demonstrated that deeper connection and that deeper meaning making and what our world could be. Today, again, I wish to express my deepest appreciation to the staff of the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers. Again, we would be nowhere without their dedicated work, and they are a highly productive group that punches well above our weight. Again, we are at 7 full-time staff here at the college now. We could probably use about 7 more in terms of trying to achieve all of the work that needs to get done. But each of them brings a dedicated passion, tireless efforts towards the achievement of the profession, and what they all personally believe in the profession and how it can change society is nothing short of remarkable. As I mentioned, this was the last year of our first ever 5-year strategic plan. In terms of our overall outputs, this was the most productive year we've ever had, and I'll mark some of those real achievements here momentarily. But again, staff come into work every day hoping to serve and working to make life better for all Nova Scotians, and to make sure that, again, the services that you receive as members are to the quality and expectations that you have of the profession. And I thank them all, and really want to honor their contributions to where we are and where we're going as well. In terms of some of that work and some of those big achievements this year, Lynn mentioned again the Candidacy Mentorship Program. We achieved our first evaluation of the program this year by evaluating a selected amount of final candidacy reports. And analyze them for particular themes and outcomes in terms of what the program was meant to achieve. Again, they were randomly selected. They were redacted for privacy concerns and just to make sure that the quality maintained sound. And we had some really striking results from that. One, we know that the candidacy program is demonstrating its effectiveness as a secondary assessment, and that's marked by the real demonstration of growth and knowledge of candidates and mentors in terms of the integration of ethics and standards in our practice. The data also showed a real strengthening of professional identity with the ability to set boundaries, bring good supervision and meaning making into the conversation, to be able to advocate both for the profession as well as for clients, all clearly demonstrated in the data. It also proved, again, that it reduces the risk of complaints for folks who receive complaints and strengthens overall resiliency. We know that the candidacy program can be strengthened. We know that it ought to be. We also believe it is the model that social work should be moving forward with in terms of secondary assessments. We continue to advance this on a national level in the face of, again, pressure to exert a nationalized, standardized exam as a secondary assessment. Our leadership here has been pretty steadfast in terms of recognizing the flaws of that approach, the damage that that approach can cause, and recognizes that although candidacy is not a perfect program, it represents a model that is rooted in nurturing, support, and ultimately operates as that secondary assessment. And we look forward to continuing to grow and expand that. We've also spent significant time this year making sure that particularly our regulatory committees were receiving and updating on the most up-to-date best practices in regulation. Both the Board of Examiners as well as others have been involved in training through the Nova Scotia Regulated Health Professions Network, as well as internal training to make sure that, again, we are prepared and ready to make good, tough decisions around complaint and discipline matters. Again, we've been advancing, and again, this is a testament to the work of staff. We've been advancing a wellness campaign over the last couple of years, which again has been a grassroots campaign to align with other professions, other professionals, around how we could and should be delivering health in our province. And I say health, not healthcare, because that's the approach that we're looking to take. We have to recognize that our overall well-being is more rooted in our socioeconomic, political circumstances than it is in what's happening biologically to us. And that health is not simply about care, but about, again, a series of policies that would be put in place to create well-being. And so through the leadership of Naj, who's formed really intricate and powerful partnerships with other professions, occupational therapy, physio, recreational therapy, as well as organizations like the Canadian Mental Health Association and other First Voice groups, we've been able to link together and continue to put together a compelling and powerful narrative for the type of health we could have. And again, one of the important results of that work was an advocacy toolkit to ensure that our members and our partners had the knowledge and tools to be able to advocate for the type of change we all need to see. In terms of child and family well-being advocacy, last June, we released a pivotal report. Over the last 7 years, we have spent a lot of time being critical of the child welfare system and have loosely pointed to solutions to it. In June, we were able to put forward a comprehensive report with comprehensive policy reform to lead to a system of child and family well-being that models and allows to flourish the values of the profession. One of the pieces of that report that I find pretty compelling and pretty necessary is that we weren't only able to pitch the policy reform that needed to happen, we were also able to cost out what that reform would cost Nova Scotians. Because of our strategic relationship and partnership with the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives, we had the data at hand to be able to show that the type of systems that we need, one that again work upstream to ensure that every child can reach their full potential, free of poverty, free of violence, with housing and food available to them, as well as community, is within our reach as Nova Scotians, should we make different choices politically. Again, we continue to work on our professional development. Lynn mentioned some of the highlights of the top level goals. Again, we are committed to ensuring particularly that those 6 core mandated areas are available to folks and that they have access to top quality, rich conversation that advances the practice of social work. Certainly yesterday's conference modeled this with, again, really great content and then really great meaning making around issues of reconciliation, unconscious bias, anti-Black racism, vicarious trauma towards social justice. The initiative underscores our dedication to enhancing professional growth, equipping social workers with tools to foster inclusive, effective, and compassionate practice. We also know that social workers are only as effective as the tools that are available to them to be able to support vulnerable families and vulnerable people across Nova Scotia. And we know that in Nova Scotia, the availability of those tools are limited. We know that, again, housing is in a state of crisis, that we have the highest child poverty rates in Canada, and that we continue to lack meaningful access to the type of mental health care that is required to fully flourish, as well as, again, the availability to connect through community. That's why we've continued to advance strategic partnerships with our very close partners at the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. Again, we're able to make sure that the social work voice is present and influenced in all of their policy recommendations. We're able to support them in terms of achieving a really solid political narrative and political discourse towards the province that we could have in Nova Scotia. And we remain very tight and close with ensuring that that organization succeeds. Because we need it in order to push a vision for what Nova Scotia could be. We've also spent, and we talked about this at the special general meeting as well, a lot of time and significant effort in building out the Nova Scotia Action Coalition for Community Wellbeing, which is a political group aimed at advocating for the type of policy that is required to ensure that social workers have the tools to care for the most vulnerable. Most recently, we've been involved in campaigns involving the limitation of fixed term long-term leases, which we know have been incredibly damaging to vulnerable Nova Scotians, rendering many homeless and putting many folks into deeper precarious positions. And we know that we cannot provide any meaningful services until somebody has safe housing. And we cannot do the work without it. So we continue to advance policy agendas through that narrative and through those organizations. And last, a significant achievement for this year was just in the last week, we finally brought online the first phase of clinical regulation. Moving from, again, the regulation of private practice towards the regulation of clinical social work. Again, this is a project that started almost 6 years ago, believe it or not, with still more work to move forward. I am incredibly indebted to the clinical committee who put forward a vision of what clinical social work could look like. We've just actualized that first phase, opening up the entry to practice process in our database. We'll have more on the website later in the week. As we move towards, again, the full scope over the next 3 years, we'll be looking to bring online clinical standards of practice, training and support for clinical supervisors, and ultimately deal with the growing pains of working into a new system before we start to work towards the full scope of clinical practice. So in conclusion, again, there has been a tireless effort and dedication from our staff who've laid a foundation to continue the transformative change of the social work landscape. Again, I do want to mark the fact that when I began 8 years ago, we had a membership of just below 1,800. We are at 2,900 as of yesterday. That is significant growth in our sector. That's both good and a challenge for us. Ultimately, it's showing that employers, Nova Scotians, are valuing the work of social workers and want them in their systems. Certainly, we've seen the growth of the Schools Plus program. We've seen lots of more positions added in health, and we see a growing and flourishing private system as well. That growth, again, is a tribute, of course, to all social workers and what they bring forward on a daily basis. But it's also a sign that our society is hurting and needs more cares, and that there's much more work to do. I'm immensely proud of the progress we made over the last 5 years, and I'm so excited for the next 3 years in terms of what the strategic plan and the opportunities that are laid out there for us to achieve are there. I'm also incredibly indebted and grateful for all of you, particularly the fact that you showed up today on a Saturday to hear from your college, to talk about what our activities and where we're going. And again, we cannot function, we cannot govern effectively, and we cannot self-regulate without your volunteer efforts and you showing up. So thank you so much for that. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone might have.
First, if I could actually call for a motion to accept.
Thank you. Yeah.
The executive director's registrar's very thorough report. Thank you so much for all of your work.
So we have Kate making the motion and Jackie seconding it, and then Jim has raised his hand.
Wonderful.
Oh, it's not just a second. Sorry, Jim.
Any questions for the EDR on his report?
If you do have a question or comment, just put up your hand and we can turn on your camera and microphone.
See how thorough your report was?
There you go.
Well, if there isn't any questions and no votes, the motion is declared carried. You see any questions? I'm not seeing any.
Nope. Yeah, all good.
All right. I will now call on Jack Wanderville to present as chair the Board of Examiners report. Hey, Jack.
Jack, you should be able to turn on your microphone and cam. There you are.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. As Chair of the Board of Examiners, I'm pleased to present our annual report reflecting on a year of sustained effort and progress towards operationalizing the standards of good regulation. Our commitment to these standards is unwavering as we continue to enhance our regulatory framework, advocate for diversity, manage regulatory risks effectively, and maintain high standards of practice. So I'm going to present an overview of the progress and the key developments over the past year. First of all, with regard to advancements in information accessibility, we have continued to make significant progress in updating our website and registry to provide comprehensive and easily accessible information about our registrants, regulatory requirements, guidance, processes, and decisions. This step ensures transparency and facilitates better understanding and compliance among social workers and the public alike. Changes were made through bylaws on information that appears in the registry, section 28, the used name in the registry. Now, many registries still rely on legal names instead of those used by individuals, which can be exclusionary to vulnerable populations. The adoption of a bylaw amendment to update this registry ensures the representation of the names that our members actually use, an essential step towards aligning with the trans rights movement. Next, with regard to advocacy for diversity and inclusion, the regulator has actively promoted diversity, equity, and inclusion across multiple channels, such as our website, our newsletters, and public announcements. We have specified concrete steps for anti-racist regulation, reconciliation, and governance. A key initiative introduced was the compulsory training for all social workers on truth and reconciliation, anti-racism, and bias, showcasing our dedication to creating an inclusive professional setting. This training was successfully completed for the first time in 2023. Subsequently, a professional development report and quality assurance report demonstrating thorough integration of this learning into practice was presented to the Board of Examiners. With regard to regulatory risk management, to effectively manage regulatory risks, the College has introduced specific measures targeting areas such as trauma-specific therapy, sexual misconduct, fitness to practice, guidelines for medical assistance in dying or MAID, continuous education, and redevelopment of the quality assurance program. These actions are integral to our comprehensive strategy to oversee clinical social work practices and address broader systemic issues affecting care delivery, achieved through collaboration with government, employers, and the wider community. This year, the board has also conducted numerous interviews with applicants identified as having potential risks to the public. The board diligently worked to mitigate these risks by implementing measures to ensure that they could effectively monitor compliance. Such measures included provisions for positions under supportive supervision, all of which are detailed in the registry. With regard to performance reporting and strategic objectives, this year the College completed a significant report on the impacts of the candidacy program, highlighting its pivotal role in fostering critical reflection among new social workers on privilege, values, and ethics. The program provides a structured opportunity for mentees to deeply explore issues of power, privilege, and unintended consequences outside the pressures of daily practice. This reflective process is crucial for developing the competence needed to understand how personal biases and social location influence professional practice, thereby enhancing ethical decision-making. A key component to the program is its focus on applied ethics, addressing complex issues such as confidentiality, consent, and boundary setting. Feedback from participants indicates that discussing real-life ethical dilemmas with mentors demystifies the process of navigating these challenges and is invaluable given that confidentiality issues are among the top complaints that are faced by social workers. The mentorship provided through the program strengthens new social workers' ability to manage these ethical challenges effectively. Additionally, the report on the program identified progress in supporting mentees in developing a strong professional identity and a skill set that aligns with their specific interests within the diverse field of social work. Through sharing expertise and experiences, mentors help candidates to overcome self-doubt and to build confidence in their abilities. The report also addresses the significant stresses inherent in social work and highlights how the Candidacy Mentorship Program educates new social workers on recognizing and managing occupational stress injuries, emphasizing the importance of a supportive community of care. The report demonstrates that the CMP, or the Candidacy Mentorship Program, plays a complex role in social work regulation, addressing not only the potential for increased complaints among less experienced workers, but also the broader challenges that new entrants face in the profession. While it helps protect both the public and the candidates by ensuring competency and providing a supportive learning environment, the report acknowledges that the CMP alone cannot address all factors which lead to complaints. A holistic approach that includes the Candidacy Mentorship Program alongside consideration for organizational culture, workload, and support systems is essential for the comprehensive development and protection of social worker candidates and the communities that they serve. With regard to standards review and development, this year, a major project was initiated to adopt the CASW Code of Ethics and Standards of Practice. In November, consultations took place with employers, social workers, and core partners to start the process of adopting a new code of ethics and standards that reflect the current practice of social work. This includes addressing the expectations around anti-Black racism, reconciliation, unconscious bias, and more. In partnership with our clinical committee, we have been advancing clinical standards of practice, and that will be additional for social workers who practice in a clinical setting. The values embodied in the new code and standards include respecting the dignity and worth of all people, promoting social justice, pursuing truth and reconciliation, valuing human relationships, preserving integrity of professional practice, maintaining privacy and confidentiality, and providing competent professional services. These underline the importance of providing guidance principles, practice context, and standards of practice that are essential for the ethical and effective delivery of social work services. This endeavor represents a significant step forward in ensuring that our profession remains responsive and relevant to the evolving needs and challenges of society while upholding the highest ethical standards. Through these updated codes and practices, we aim to reinforce our commitment to social justice, dignity, and the excellence that we value in social work practice. And finally, with regard to managing risks associated with non-registrants, the college actively addresses the risks posed by individuals who use protected titles or practice without proper licensing. On our discipline page, we've highlighted examples of how we have taken action to enforce those standards following complaints that have been received. This year, there have been several instances where our registrar proactively contacted individuals who were practicing without required registration and successfully resolved these issues informally. Furthermore, during the renewal period, we reviewed job descriptions for members who believed that they no longer needed to be registered. In 2 specific cases, after careful assessment, we decided to deny the request for resignation, and the individuals were required to maintain their registration. So in conclusion, our efforts this past year underscore our dedication to upholding the highest standards of regulatory practice, advancing our profession, and most of all, protecting the public interest. We look forward to building on this foundation in the coming year, guided by our strategic objectives and committed to excellence in all aspects of our work. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jack. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your dedication and the committee's work. I will now call a motion to accept the Board of Examiners report. Could I please have a motion?
Dominique has moved.
And a second, please.
Laura has seconded.
And are there any questions for Jack? So before I call for a motion declared, are there any no's votes? Again, thank you so much, Jack. Motion declared carried. I will now call on Lysandra Hernandez to present as chair the Complaints Committee report.
Sandra, you should be able to, there you are.
There she is.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. The Nova Scotia College of Social Workers exists to serve and protect Nova Scotians by effectively regulating the profession of social work. The Nova Scotia College of Social Workers establishes, maintains, and regulates standards of professional practice. Our role is to ensure that Nova Scotians receive the services of skilled and competent social workers who are knowledgeable, ethical, qualified, and accountable to the people who receive social work services. The Nova Scotia College of Social Workers believes that the people of Nova Scotia are entitled to receive the highest caliber of care from their social workers. The college achieves its mandate in part through its legislative power to address complaints involving allegations of professional misconduct, conduct unbecoming the profession, incompetency, and/or breaches of the code of ethics. This process of receiving, investigating, and resolving complaints is the ongoing work of the Complaints Committee, which is a subcommittee of the Board of Examiners. The Complaints Committee is obligated to investigate every complaint made that is within the college's jurisdiction. And the complaints made each year vary in complexity. Some are very simple to resolve, while others have more complex issues, such as fitness to practice issues, documentation practices, confidentiality breaches, and professional boundaries violations. The powers and duties associated with processing complaints are not assumed lightly, and the resources required to carry out these responsibilities effectively are considerable. The college continues to examine ways to enhance the quality of care delivered by social workers through our ethical mapping project and continued collaboration with employers, such as the Department of Community Services. The number of complaints received and processed by this committee remain high. In all, there were 74 complaint matters processed by the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers staff in 2023. Of these, 16 complaints were open complaint matters carried over from 2022. The remaining 58 complaints were new complaints that were received in 2023. And of these, 31 matters required investigation. And this is an increase from the 28 matters that required investigation in 2022 and the 21 matters in 2021. And the other 27 complaints were not opened because they fell outside of the Nova Scotia College of Social Workers jurisdiction. Of the 47 complaint matters that were investigated by the committee in 2023, 22 were carried over into 2024. 2 were withdrawn, and the complaints committee rendered 24 final decisions. In terms of some statistics of the complaints that were received in 2023, 32 of those complaints came from child protection, 5 from healthcare, so the Nova Scotia Health and the IWK. 7 were from private practice, and 3 were from the community. In terms of the outcomes that were rendered, or the outcomes of these complaints, 16 were dismissed. 16 of these complaints were dismissed. 4 were resulted in letters of counsel. One, it was a discipline committee decision. Two were resolved by an informal resolution. One was a reprimand by consent, and two were withdrawn. In terms of where these complaints came from, 32 were from service users. 6 were from employers of social workers. 3 were from the registrar, and 6 were third-party complaints. And I am happy to answer any questions in relation to that.
Lysandra, thank you so much for your thorough report. Before questions, could I have a motion to accept Lysandra's complaint committee's report? Could I have a motion, please?
Eva has made that motion.
Could I have a second?
Jen has made the second. Thank you.
All right, now we're ready for questions for you, Lysandra. Thank you. Any questions? See how thorough you were?
So Dominic has asked the question, why are so many dismissed?
So the dismissals, the college just dismisses matters when, again, they're not within the jurisdiction. We can also dismiss it when the facts do not, if proven, would not constitute professional misconduct, conduct unbecoming of the profession and competence, or a breach of the code of ethics, or the complaints can't be substantiated. So there's a lot of reasons why the committee would dismiss a complaint. I can't specifically recall each specific reason of the 16 dismissals, but those would be reasons why.
I can add a little more context to that, Lysandra. That's generally it, is that oftentimes it is that we don't have jurisdiction, or the allegations that are made are unsubstantiated, or there's no evidence to suggest that further action is needed. You have to remember, when you look at that data that Lysandra just presented, that 32 of last year's complaints came from an area like child welfare, which is an involuntary, high stake, high tension area of practice. And the college looks into every matter with empathy and care. However, sometimes those allegations are made because of the high tension in that environment.
Mm-hmm.
Eva has asked the question about themes and complaints from employers specifically. I can field that one too, Lysandra, as we do have a report that will be coming out soon to express those themes a little bit more. Oftentimes, the themes that are complaints coming from employers have to do more specifically with documentation or with performance issues that occurred that the employer, particularly health, will pass on a complaint to the regulatory body if there were some performance matters that were needed.
Can you elaborate on complaints that fall outside of your jurisdiction? Whose jurisdiction, as if it's not the college?
Yeah, that's a great question, Jenna. Again, jurisdiction would mean a couple of things. One, that the person is a registered social worker, and that they were a registered social worker when the issue of conduct occurred. We do receive many complaints in which somebody believes that the person is a social worker. This happens in IA quite a bit. Income assistance, the person is not. In other areas where it may fall out of our scope, again, what may be alleged has nothing to do with ethics or standards. It may have more to do with, again, the particulars of that particular job scope. Might be more important to have that related to a employer issue rather than come to the regulatory body. Or in some cases, the referral or the complaint are structural and systemic. which need to be operated and looked at by either the Ombudsman or the Human Rights Commission.
Any other questions? So again, before I make a motion to declare carried, are there any no votes to this particular report? Okay.
Thanks so much,
you.
Lysandra.
Thank you so much, Lysandra. Motion declared carried. Okay, I will now call on Kate Matheson, our treasurer.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Bear with me here. I'm just going to grab my notes. So I am Kate Matheson. I am the College Council Treasurer, and I'm pleased to be here with you today. I want to just quickly echo the sentiments of the land acknowledgement we heard this morning and express my gratitude for the land we live on and the Mi'kmaq people. I think first on our agenda for the financial report is to introduce Graham Sweet from Wild Tilly Davidson, who's going to present our 2023 audit.
Welcome, Graham Sweet.
Graham's with us. We're just getting them up and running here.
Getting them unmuted.
Graham, how you doing there? Are you able to come online? All right, it's not hearing from Graham. Graham, are you able to come online? If not, Kate, we might come back to you and then circle back to Graham.
That's fine.
Nice.
Do you want to do that?
I'll try and call Graham.
Okay. All right, we'll hold that. And then, so what I'll do is present the 2025 budget. Alec, are you able to put that up on the screen? Just the snapshot of the budget from the report.
No.
Too far. Here we go.
Hello?
Okay. Oh, is that great?
Hello? Oh, I think I'm unmuted.
Okay, great. Let's just go back to Graham Sweet.
Okay, oh, there we go. I even have my camera working now. So whatever you did there, that seemed to work. So can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, welcome.
Okay, thank you. And thanks for having me, and apologize for the technical issues there. Okay, there I am. Okay, I can see myself. That's wonderful. Okay, thanks for having me this morning. So I'm just going to briefly speak to the financial statements, the audited financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2023. And I believe in the annual report, there's a snippet of the statements, including the auditor's report and then the statement of financial position and the statement of revenue expenditures. So I'll just spend a brief couple of minutes talking about that, and then we can take any questions. So the auditor's report is a unqualified audit opinion on the financial statements for the year ended December 31st, 2023. Wording is all standard as required by our regulations for audits. So the statement of financial position, this presents the assets, liabilities, and net asset position of the organization at December 2023 with comparatives for 2022. You'll note that under the 2022 column, there is in brackets restated, and that was a result of a prior period adjustment to reflect the capital asset policy of the organization, which previously had been to expense capital assets, but now they're being capitalized and recognized on the statement of financial position because that was a change in policy that was applied retrospectively, and thus we adjusted the prior year's financial statements to reflect that change in policy. So in terms of the assets, the organization overall, the total assets were $1,692,000 for 2023 versus $1,785,000 for the prior year. The decline was a result of a current year operating deficit, which was a planned budgeted event for the organization. In terms of the asset mix, a good portion of funds are held in bank accounts and represent just over $1 million, of which $920,000 represents the dues and fees collected for the next fiscal year. Then there's there's several GICs that are held to represent the funds for the operational reserve fund and the discipline fund. And you will note that the operational reserve fund did decline in the year from $639,000 to $544,000, and that was a result of a transfer to the operating fund of $57,000 and a transfer to the discipline fund of $54,000. The rest of the statement of financial position is as we would expect, and we'll move on to the statement of revenue and expenditures. So in terms of revenues, they were $1,138,000 this year versus $1,080,000 last year, an increase of $58,000, which was primarily a result of the number of members and increase in fees, and again over budget by about $50,000. On the expense side, administration expenses were $416,000 versus a budget of $387,000 and a prior year of $375,000. The main increases there had to do with expenditures on the database and cybersecurity matters. Personnel was $627,000 versus $537,000 for the prior year and $615,000 in the budget. And the increase there was some new hires in administration and regulatory positions. So overall, you had an excess of revenue over expenses of just under $30,000 this year versus $119,000 last year. You had budgeted about $24,500. You then had special project expenditures of $144,000 this year, which was increased over last year of $37,000. But lower than a budgeted amount of $248,000. The primary items in strategic projects was strategic planning and clinical regulatory expenditures on special projects. So overall, you had an excess of expenses over revenue for the year of $114,000, which was quite a swing from the prior year, but was actually lower than the budgeted deficit. So overall, those are the results of the operations for the year. I don't know if you have the full statements, but the full statements would provide further explanatory information regarding the policies of the organization and various other disclosures required under our accounting standards. And I'm sure those are available if anybody would like to see them. So anyway, in summary, that's the results for the year ended December 31st, 2023.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Before I ask for questions, could I have a motion to accept the 2023 auditor's report?
I'll move.
Thanks, Kate.
Second? Seconder?
Jim is seconded. Thank you.
Any questions for Graham? All right, before I declare a motion, are there any no votes? Motion declared carried.
Thanks, Graham. Appreciate you.
Thank you,
coming out
Graham.
on
Good to
Saturday.
see you.
Okay, thanks. Have a great rest of your meeting, folks. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye.
Okay, Kate, can you please present the 2025?
Before we do that, Kate's gonna make a motion.
Oh, sorry. Oh, right. Do you want me to make the motion to
Kate.
appoint the auditors or?
Kate can make the motion.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Yeah, so I will make the motion to appoint Lyle Tilly Davidson to conduct our 2024 audit. And I need a seconder.
Second.
Tanya's gonna second. Excellent.
All right. Now I'm ready for you, Kate.
Do you just want to ask?
Oh,
Not quite.
any no's? Motion carried.
Now.
Now I'll call on Kate Matheson to present the 2025 budget.
Okay. Gotta make the financial report exciting somehow, right? Okay. So you see our budget in front of you, and I'm not gonna go sort of line by line in detail because you can review it in the annual report, and I'm happy to field any questions. I'll put my email address in the chat there, or you can always reach out, and ask questions now as well. But you'll see that there's no sort of drastic changes in the year-over-year budget. You will see a reflection of increasing costs and the overall financial pressures that the organization is facing. And so that sort of brings us to our first point on the budget for this year, which is our fee increase. So we've chatted about that a little bit so far, but we will see an increase of 3.5%. We do apply small increases to our annual fee each year to maintain our high quality of service and keep up with those increased costs. This year's increase is below the cost of living increase, which is 3.9%. So the college is, focused on balancing increased costs both for the organization and recognizing that members are experiencing increased costs in their lives as well. And for those of you who are in private practice, there are increased costs to that too. So this does amount to an extra $16 per year, and we all recognize that that's not a small amount of money, and that money is a source of stress and hardship for many of our members. So we hear you, and we know that. But I think you'll see from the audit and from the pressures evidenced in our budget that the increase is necessary for the college to continue its work and to do so with that high quality standard. And I think the conference this weekend is excellent evidence of the investment that you all have made in the college, the improvements to the accessibility of our professional development program overall, and also your increasing confidence and your participation are indications of the success of these investments so far. So I hope you'll trust in us and in the college staff to continue to make great programming and to bring us along on the journey. So as I mentioned, and as was mentioned in the audit, there are increasing financial pressures such as the database and the computer services, insurance, operational costs. Cybersecurity is an increasing pressure for the organization. So you'll see we're spending more money in those areas. Sort of back to the personnel aspect, we are increasing staff capacity, and you heard that very much through Lynn's report and Alex's report, that increasing that staff complement and staff capacity is really important, and we are seeing beautiful results from those investments. So that will continue. And then finally, just a note on growth. It's so exciting to be at the a sort of transition from one strategic plan into our next few years of strategic plan. And it's exciting to see our trajectory. And I know the financial report is not so exciting, but it does give like a hard sort of quantitative analysis of where we've been and where we're going. And you can see it through the years reflected in our budget. And so the numbers, it tell part of the story, certainly. And I just want to note that we are projecting a bit of a surplus, and the surpluses are really a really great way for us to fund those special projects, which are such a great way for us to live our values and principles and to continue our mandate. And so we're grateful for the opportunity to do that, and for the college's continue, under Alex's leadership, the continued fiscal management really allows us to do that. So that's a very positive thing. And that's it for my financial report.
Thank you so much, Kate. Any questions? Next, approval of the annual report 2023. And I can say, as your president, for a very small compliment and a dedicated group of committee members that support the work of the college, I really do hope that you see and feel the substantive work that's completed by the college. So I will now call on a motion to accept the 2023 annual report. Could I have a motion, please?
Michelle has made that motion.
And a second?
Crystal has seconded.
Any questions? Right before I declare motion carried, are there any no votes? Motion declared carried. Okay, Mr. Stratford, this is announcements of council elections and appointments.
Excellent. So the nominating committee was struck earlier this year. We had a pretty monumental task of trying to fill the president's role. I'm deeply honored to stand in front of you to welcome new council members, as well as bid a heartfelt farewell to some of our very dedicated leaders. So first and foremost, I want to extend my profound gratitude to Laura Rodriguez, who's finished again 6 years as one of our Western reps, Donna Lemoyne, who has finished 5 years as a Central rep, and Lori Eller, who is also leading executive as our secretary after 5 dedicated years of service. Their kindness, insight, and unwavering commitment have left an indelible mark on this college. We are immensely grateful for service and the legacy you leave behind. I do want to take some time to give a special thank you again to Lynn Brogan for her exceptional 4 years as president. Throughout Lynn's career, which has been an impressive range of social work in mental health, frontline child protection, supervision, administration, and as an executive director, Lynn, again, is a force in terms of her ability to advocate and communicate the goals and the values of social work. I can tell you we've been in many tense meetings together, and I have moments where I'm struggling to regulate how I want to respond. And Lynn has always come in with a concise, forward-thinking, thoughtful comments that bring the rooms together and forward thinking. In terms of Lynn's role, and it's not over, so let's be clear about that. But Lynn walked through my door in around 2017 after retiring and said, I want to play a part. Started on our role as treasurer, helped to again redefine how we report and how we're accountable in our treasuring, and then stepped into the role as president, and has again led with passion, dedication, and with again her heart, and that has meant a whole lot. I can tell you again, Lynn's always been available for consultations to bounce ideas off of, and to make sure that again we're in alignment with where the profession is going. In terms of some of the achievements, again, Lynn is a profound advocate for the role of social work and child welfare. And again, through steadfast leadership, there have been big wins. Again, the Child Welfare on the Brink campaign shone a light on some of the real challenges in the provision of the new act and the lack of resources that were getting put into place. You know, some of those tense meetings involved the reality that child welfare doesn't have a practice framework, or didn't. That's like operating without a compass or a map in terms of where we need to go. We were able to persuade, consult, and move forward with a new practice framework with the Department of Community Services, which wouldn't have been done without Lynn. In addition, we had a major victory last year that can be attributed to our work, community work, workers from inside the Department of Community Services, in which the Family Stability Support Program was implemented. If folks recall, the practice in child welfare was to remove the child tax benefit when a child was brought into temporary care. That had a substantially adverse effect on families and reunification. Again, because of Lynn's leadership and to organize community and voice, we were able to win that new program, making sure that at least partially those funds were put into place. And then, of course, the Office of the Children and Youth, which Lynn and I have been focused on for a very long time, and saw at least some significant progress put forward in the last meeting, or in the last sitting of the legislative session, in which we finally saw again this move forward. Lynn's contributions are immense to this profession, to the college, and we certainly are celebrating her today and the 4 years that she's been with us, and look forward to her continued vision and leadership as past president. We also in the fall are going to be celebrating Lynn at our awards gala, as council has also recognized the substantial leadership of Lynn and has awarded her with the CASW Distinguished Service Award. Lynn's vibrant, joyful, and steadfast leadership has endured to make sure that Nova Scotians receive the best of social work. And as we move forward, let's carry the torch of the legacy that she has left in the role of president to continue to achieve new heights. So please know we're digital, but this is where a standing ovation would certainly be warranted and linked. So please join me in thanking Lynn for her service.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course.
Thank you for those kind words.
Now, I am pleased to announce that the NSCSW nominating committee has selected a remarkable new executive, led by Robert Wright, who we're going to hear from in a few minutes as well. Robert is an exceptional leader, and I am feeling very honored that he has agreed to take on this presidency role and to lead us in the next 4 years of practice, or next 4 years of service. You know, Robert's background is extensive in terms of child welfare, mental health, trauma, sexual violence, and cultural competence. He's created 2 organizations, probably more. I just have the 2 written down here in terms of the executive director of the People's Counseling Clinic and the African Nova Scotian Justice Institute. He's played numerous roles, and I'm so excited that he's coming on board. I'm going to invite Robert to come and bring some greetings, and then I'll announce the rest of the nominations and executive from there. So, Robert, I did hear you were signed in. I'm just going to look for you here. Oh, you're right here. Oh my God. I didn't know. Oh, I was looking for you online. Come on in.
I'll just wheel a chair here. I've just been waiting in the wings and thought I would come in person and join you, and just prepared a few comments just of welcome, and so
That was a really exciting entrance.
yeah. So I'll read and so that I can stay on track and won't ramble. But I just want to thank council staff and mostly the members of the college for giving me the opportunity to serve you all in the role of president. It has been many years since I have been active with council, but rest assured that I am a social worker to the bone, and have been active over my 35-year career doing my part to highlight the unique and powerful role that social workers play in our society. For those who don't know me, I should share a bit about myself. I'm about, I figure, a seventh generation African Nova Scotian on my father's side, probably fifth on my mother's side. I'm a queer, I identify as queer, and I've lived and practiced here in Mi'kma'ki my entire life, save for brief periods of time that I was away studying and working. I'm the father of two children. One child of my daughter is 30 years old, a child of my former marriage, and I have a son who's 21 years old, who is a child that I adopted as an infant as a single parent after my divorce. I always say I have one by grace and one by works, but it changes which one is from grace and which one is from works, depending upon the season. I've been privileged to have worked in very diverse roles over the years. In education, I served as a student support worker very early on in my career. I served in education as a social worker and a race relations coordinator. In child welfare, I served as a frontline child welfare worker. I served as a supervisor, a staff clinical assessor, and as an executive director of a Family and Children's Services of Cumberland County. People might remember that I served as the executive director of the Child and Youth Strategy for about 3.5 years, called into government to lead that very important work. It was a tremendous privilege. And during that time, we led the implementation of innovations like the Parenting Journey program and Schools Plus, and other programs designed to support families early. In recent years, as Alec pointed out, I've been the founding executive director of both the People's Counseling Clinic, which is a community-based pro bono mental health clinic that I formed out of my lifelong private practice. And I was also the inaugural executive director of the African Nova Scotian Justice Institute. Both positions I have recently left, though I continue to serve in an advisory capacity, and I guess my paid job is as Director Emeritus of the People's Clinic. I left those roles to find a little more space in my life. Little did I know that a portion of that space I was freeing up so that I would be able to serve you as president. I'm really excited to take on this role at this time, as I've watched, particularly over this weekend and in recent years, I've watched us grow in our understanding of our responsibility to address the consequences of colonialism. And social workers, of course, must come to terms with our complicity with the harm caused to Indigenous people and other marginalized and racialized peoples through this period. We were active agents of the state in implementing residential schools and were the prime actors in the 60s scoop. We provided service to the residents, the displaced residents of Africville, rather than standing in opposition to that social reform that still has lasting generational effects on members of the African Nova Scotian community. So I'm happy to serve. It's my hope that we'll continue to inspire each other to be allies of healing, healers of the social and the structural consequences of our colonial history, and healers too of the clinical harm we all carry from this time in history. Whether that clinical harm is takes the form of Indigenous multi-generational trauma, or for people of African descent, post-traumatic slave syndrome, a rather dramatic and poignant term to describe the particular trauma suffered by Black people over this period, or even whether it's to heal what I have been calling lately in my practice, and what you'll see in the literature, is white supremacist acculturation that is at the root of white fragility and guilt, which is, none of these things are comfortable to talk about, but these are the realities of the times in which we are living, what we are beginning to understand. And social workers must play a critical role in addressing the structural, the social, the familial, and the clinical challenges that our legacy of colonials has brought us to. So I look forward to working with you all as we continue to shape and grow and heal together. I look forward to working with Alec and staff and with Lynn and council, and thank you all in advance for your love and your support and your patience as I grow into this role in the coming months. So thank you so much again for nominating me as your president, and I come to serve.
Thank you so much, Robert. I know that I'm leaving this presidency in amazing hands, and I really look forward to working with you again.
Yes.
Again, I got a big smile on my face when that surprise happened. So I Robert being here, that is lovely and wonderful to have you here. In terms of filling out the executive team, we have some other really important changes happening there as well. I'm delighted that Crystal Hill, who has served as our Northern rep, is coming on board as the executive, as our secretary. Crystal, thank you for your continued service. As we mentioned, Lynn is moving to the role of past president, so we'll continue to serve and guide and bring her wisdom to us. I'm very excited and very happy to welcome Eva Burrell, who's coming in as our other central representative. Look forward to working with Eva, who's served on our professional standards committee for the last number of years. I do want to say that we do have 2 vacancies available on council. So if you are from the northern region or the western region and would like to serve, I'm very happy to have that conversation with you, and that can happen at any time. So please help me in welcoming new council members, new executive, particularly Robert, who is going to be leading us for the next little while. Thank you.
All right, well, there is no motion for an adjournment. So with that, thank you all so much for taking the time out of this amazing sunny day to be with us. Your time is certainly appreciated. Thanks so much. Take care.
There is, for those staying on for the conference, there is another link, and that will begin. The program will start at around 11:15. So we'll see some of you back then. Thank you so much.